Hi everybody. Today I'm starting my series called Applique Basics, and it's to show you the many ways to applique. I created this heart wreath to teach applique basics, as the heart shape contains all that you need to learn. It has straight line, it has curves, it has a point, and it has an indent. And if you can learn those 4 ways to deal with applying shapes onto fabric, you've got it all. So the heart shape is perfect for that. I love this block so much, I included in 2 of my quilt designs. How Do I Love Thee? And my Victoriana album quilt. You'll find a link to the webpage on my site where you can request my templates for this series. And it also has the fabric requirements that you'll need. You put in your email, you click the link, you put in your name and your email address, and confirm that it's correct, and then instantly this will be emailed to your email account. All right. For today's episode, you're going to need your fabric, and personally, I'm a wash and press your fabric in advance kind of gal. There are people who don't believe in washing your fabrics, but way back when I was early in my quilting, when I had first joined a guild, I had talked to a quilter who had gotten sick from they decided that the doctors had decided when she had been pressing her fabric that she never washed, the steam of the chemicals from her fabric she was breathing in, and that made her ill. And that is a main reason I like to wash all my fabrics before I start working with them. There's also the idea of the color dye, which rarely happens these days, but the color dye in the fabric coming out. So that's another reason to wash it, just to be sure. Some of the things you're going to need for today's episode for preparing is some box board, like cereal box, crackers, I think. I'm not sure what all comes in box board, but you know, it's a good way to repurpose it. I have carbon or graphite paper and some tape to hold it down, a craft knife, a mechanical pencil, and this is one of my absolute favorite tools for quilting. It's such a tiny point that when you trace a line, this is exactly the line that you want. If you use a fatter pencil, it makes that line distorted. Pinking shears. If you don't have these, I don't know that I'd go out rushing to buy a pair, but if you think applique will be in your life, yes, I will explain why in a few minutes. Some scissors, both for paper and fabric scissors, and a chalk pencil. This is thicker than I was saying the mechanical pencil. If this came in this mechanical pencil, I would use it. There is a mechanical pencil that is a chalk, but I love this chalk pencil the best. It's not available anymore, unfortunately. Thankfully, I'm a little stocked up with it, so I'm good for a while. But there are other chalk pencils out. I just have not tried them. I can't recommend anything because this was the one that I loved and used. It was by Pat Campbell, but I don't think it's available anymore. She died a few years back, and her husband stopped selling them, as I've been told to believe. Okay, now making your own templates with cardboard is so flexible, and you can all do your own designs if you do it that way. What I'm going to do this so I'm not on wood. Okay. So basically you take your cardboard, you put the carbon paper on top, you put your templates on top of that, and I tape it down just so it doesn't move around when I'm trying to draw. I'm not going to do these all, I'm just going to give you an example. So I put a little piece of tape there, and I hold a piece down here. I don't know if that's all on screen, maybe not. It's taped. So then you take your mechanical pencil and you trace around the template line. And I might not be doing this perfect because I can't see very well. If I ever really do a lot of stitching for you on camera, I'm going to need another setup because I need to have things up close for me to see. There. You can see that it made a line where that shape was that I drew. I'm using an old cutting mat, and I would suggest your old cutting mat and not your new quilty one. I take my craft knife and I cut it out along my drawn line. There. And eventually you get all your templates cut out. For today, we're just going to use the heart. I do have a tip. If you're only going to be using the templates for a couple of tracings, you could totally print your templates out onto cardstock if you can get that. And that's thick enough that you won't, your shape won't distort. But the reason I like to use thicker cardboard is because the more you trace it, it can distort the side of the cardboard. Now, the next thing, and this is another tip I have, when you trace onto fabric, if you just do it on a surface, it slides. But if you make yourself one of these, this is fine grade sandpaper, and I taped it onto a piece of cardboard. And this is like 20 years old, I think, this one. I've been using it. I just retaped it this morning, so it would look prettier for you, but it's basically been a tool that's been in my quilting life for a very long time. So once you have, you got this. You could also, by the way, I should point that out, there's rough spots on your cutting mat sometimes that'll help as well in not letting the fabric move if you don't happen to have this. Okay, so when you're making your shape, you take your chalk pencil and you put it onto fabric and you just trace it. Now, all methods aren't this way, but for today, I'm just showing you this as our demonstration. And for next week's basting, this is how it begins. So you feel free to draw your heart. Okay, this is where the pinking shears come in. When you're cutting out your shape to applique, get rid of this. You want to leave yourself a seam allowance. I don't use a 1/4 inch. I find that is a little too much bulk. You could, but for curves and that, they lie much flatter and smoother if you use a smaller seam allowance. But what can even help better on curves is the pinking shears, and the reason is because of the bite of the cut. So you just basically, I do just slightly more than 1/8 of an inch past the shape. And I highly recommend using pinking shears around curves. It so makes your patches so much prettier in the end. So if you weren't using pinking shears to get the curves to lie flat, you would clip with your scissors in every 1/8 of an inch or so, not quite to the line, but just before the line, and that would also help the fabric fold over. But because I've pinked it, I won't need to do that here. But where I will need to do that is in the indent. If you ever have indents in applique, to get this fabric to lie that way when you fold it under and this one to lie that way, you need to split it. Just still making sure I'm on camera. Okay, so you just clip stop slightly before the line. I think I go dot. Okay. And just to show you here, you can just see it this is made exactly that way. It's curves, the curve lies beautiful, and the indent works too. And next week I'll show you how to deal with the point as well. Over the next bunch of weeks, I'm going to show you different methods to prepare your hearts. And I'm hoping that you'll use one method per heart just to test it out and see how you like it. And then once you do a few of them and you find the one that you like, you finish the project using your favorite method. We're also going to cover reverse applique and puffy applique, which is more versions of things you can do with applique. When you are choosing your thread for applique, you choose the color that matches the patch, not the background. And I will teach you the blind stitch that you use to attach the patch. Let's see if I can get a good view. Can you see those little stitches there? I could show you even better on the back. They're just tiny little stitches. And you take your little stitches all the way around and you get a beautiful smooth edge of the shape that you want. Once we prepare the different patches, the different hearts, we're going to baste them onto the background fabric. I will cover all of that. And you then applique the hearts down, and then you remove the basting thread. For basting thread, because I use basting applique as well, which is how I prepare my patches on top of pinning them, or it's a kind of pinning down, but then you don't have pins that catch your needles and you don't have to worry about losing the pins. The basting keeps everything where you want it to be before you stitch it. But what I did is I invested, get this open, let's see. Aha, a big spool of cotton thread. And this is still my first spool, so, and I've done a lot of applique, so you can imagine how that was a good investment, actually. And I put it in I repurposed this tin, and I poked a hole through the top so I could thread through, and that's how it keeps my thread clean, and I just pull my thread and clip as I need for basting. Okay. All right. That's this week. Next week, as I said, we'll cover basting your patches to prepare them. And I hope you liked it. Go get your template off my website. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.